Welcome to Safe Coalition Confronting Our Crisis. I'm Ann Bergen, co-host, joined by Jim Derrick, who is the president of the Safe Coalition and the creator of this series of programs to highlight the mission of the Safe Coalition, which is really to provide support for individuals and their families, to provide treatment options, education, prevention around the epidemic of substance use disorder. And Jim has been kind enough to include me as an educator, understanding that my focus is really on early intervention and prevention, knowing that there's very often a mental health component associated with substance use disorder. And one thing that I know certainly I've learned over all of this time in doing interviews with Jim is that this chronic disease of substance use disorder isn't solved or fixed by 8-day programs or 30-day programs, returning people to the toxic and stressful environments from which so many of them have come. We know that the relapse rates are extraordinary and have been extraordinary, and that much more was needed, especially in that fragile stages of early and middle recovery. And today we have the honor of showcasing a very, very powerful intervention to support recovery. And it truly demonstrates what happens when a mom and dad transform grief and combine it with love, compassion, and the profound desire to spare other parents the agony of losing a child to this horrific disease. So Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you if you'll sort of take it from here.
Sure.
Because this is just a wonderful opportunity for the community to see what has happened. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ann. And a special thank you to Barbara and David Gilmeister, we are here at Gilly's house. And Barbara and David are the parents behind this wonderful vision that has become a dream come true for our community and for the hundreds and hundreds of people that are now taking part in this mission. So what I'd like to do, Barbara and David, is we know your story. I'd like to roll it back for those that haven't seen your story and begin at the beginning and talk about your son, Stephen Gilly Gilmeister, and the inspiration behind Gilly's house and how you came to be.
All right, I'll talk a little bit about Stephen. Stephen was a great kid. It's a big smile on his face all the time, a million friends everywhere. He would give you the shirt off his back, but just never could quite finish recovery, and despite of everything we tried to do. He was in rehabs several times. We sent him to California 3 times to rehabs out there. And it never quite took. At the end, he came back from California, had somebody meet him at the airport, and died in his bed the night afterwards of an overdose. So we were obviously devastated, but Barbara's mother always said for years and years, out of bad has to come good. And so then we just started trying to figure out what we could do to memorialize him and maybe help other people not have to go through the kind of pain that we went through with that.
So I got in the mail a letter from Steve Spiewakowski, who was Stephen's probation officer. The most amazing letter. I didn't really know Steve very well, and it was an incredible letter all about Stephen and the impact that Stephen had on Steve's life. And he told us that a donation had been made to the Safe Coalition, who we had never heard of before, and what would we like to do with that donation to memorialize Stephen. So we all got together, we spoke at a coalition meeting, really maybe about 4 months after Stephen passed away, and decided to sit down and have coffee and go through some ideas of what we could do with the money. And anything from having somebody speak at a high school to a golf tournament to many things. And somebody mentioned sober house, establishing a sober house. And Stephen had lived at a sober house in Portland, Maine for a while. He loved it there. He loved the structure of a sober house, the support that he got at a sober house. Unfortunately for Stephen, he felt as though he got to a point where he didn't need it anymore. he was wrong, but he loved that kind of environment. So that meant a lot to us, and we said, okay, we're going to start looking for the possibility to be able to establish a sober house in the area. And that's how that really started.
And incredibly, Ann, I remember that conversation when you said we're going to do a sober home, and I remember thinking to myself, "Holy smokes!" In terms of things that they could have selected off
That's
the
what
menu,
I was thinking.
this is just, and I thought, well, okay, well, God bless them. Well, it wasn't long after that, Barbara, that you sent a pro forma business plan to me, and my eyes just fell out of my head. It was an incredible business plan. You have business acumen. You're a real estate person. That's your background. David has business acumen, but you really put your heart and soul into this, and were determined. And can you talk a little bit about the formation? You've identified this beautiful property here in Sheldonville. Can you talk a little bit about that early formation and what was going on?
You had sent us to Jeff Roy, and said that Jeff could have some leads on some ideas, just even generally speaking. And Jeff gave us 2 tremendous leads, and one of them was to come and look at this property. He gave me the owner's name and phone number.
I didn't
to come
realize it
and
was
look at
Jeff
this.
Roy who was the one who
It
connected
was,
you
yeah.
originally. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's
And the other that Jeff gave us was David Moore's name, who is the owner of the Hurley House in Waltham, who sits on our board, who's just the most amazing, generous man, and we would have not been able to create this without his expertise.
Right.
So we came and looked at it, and
I had a heart attack because it was 50-year-old wallpaper. It had been empty for 17 years.
It's an old nursing home.
And the 2 of us are standing in there looking at it like, and Barbara's leap of faith is going to work out, and I'm going, shaking in my boots trying to figure out how we're ever going to turn this thing into a viable entity.
But you established as a nonprofit, and you're a 501c3, which is
we
unique.
are, yeah.
Really unique. So that was your mission right from the beginning, was to be a straight nonprofit.
Yeah, we were
You're looking
working
at
on
it saying,
being-
boy, we're not going to have a problem being a
We were
nonprofit.
working on being a nonprofit before we even finished acquiring the house or anything like that. I mean, we purchased the house as a nonprofit because that was all along. This wasn't about us making money. This was about doing the right thing for the community and to memorialize Stephen and that. So it was not an easy transaction. There are not a lot of places that want to loan money to a nonprofit.
That's
A
right.
sober house is not exactly on the hot list of commercial properties people want to finance. Milford Savings Bank finally stepped up big. Milford National, sorry, right. Stepped up big time for us
Boy,
and
that
helped
matters.
us get in here, which we'll be forever and grateful to them for. And then we walked in the door and turned the key on what was a train wreck of a building. Like I said, it had been empty for 17 years. There's 50-year-old wallpaper everywhere. The septic system was crashed. There just was a tremendous amount of stuff to do.
So it took a lot of vision, a lot of creativity, and a lot of work to get where we are today. How did you find the community responded to you in terms of the need? And
The only
filling those
reason
in?
that this got done, period, because if it was just the 2 of us standing here, this would be years to get it finished. It was that bad. But volunteers just started coming out of the woodwork from every which direction. People would walk in off the street and say, "You don't know me, but put me to work." We never kept an accurate count, but we think we know it's somewhere between 300 and 400 people came in here and worked on this, and lots of them multiple times. So the number of hours that people put in here to strip the wallpaper, to fix the holes in the walls, to paint, to just move furniture, to set up rooms, is phenomenal.
You've got
we owe them.
Right, you've got 22 beds here, 22 male beds that'll be here. And this is a huge need in our community. We can talk about that in a little while. But a lot of those volunteers, having walked through here while a lot of that was going on, a lot of those volunteers are people that had either lost sons or daughters or loved ones due to substance use disorder. Many were people that didn't have a personal impact, but just were concerned.
And there were a lot in recovery.
And there were a lot of recovery, thank you.
Yes,
So
there
you
were a
had
lot
a
of
real
recovery.
cross-section. The conversations that went on around paintbrushes and over scraping mechanisms and everything else were really quite amazing and healing, weren't they?
Yeah, there were, and the diversity of the groups that came through was amazing. The courthouse, Wrentham District Court, sent a whole group of people,
Including the judge.
including the judge.
Yeah.
Dell EMC sent a group of people. Were here a couple times. Various schools sent groups of kids in for different times. Church organizations sent people in. I mean, the spectrum of groups that came through was overwhelming. It was just so much.
KP Care spent a huge amount of time. King Philip was amazingly supportive. The principal was here painting one day. So really we've had everybody. I mean, David's right, Hopedale High was here, Mount St. Charles, your son was here.
Yes, yeah.
And there were days that on a Sunday walking down the main hallway, I mean, there were 30 people. You'd have to go up the one stairway to come down the other because you couldn't make it down the hallway. There was so many people
Truly remarkable.
painting or stripping wallpaper. I mean, and the faith-based communities have just been unbelievable. I mean, many churches have come forward, and we didn't reach out to anybody. Everybody reached out to us.
Right.
So that was really the amazing
It was probably
part.
dumb on our part, but it worked out fine. I mean, maybe we should have been
But
reaching out more.
when you think about just having had the tour and gone through and you see from the 50-year-old wallpaper to what, kind of a miracle. I mean, you know, this incredible, what compassion does, it's amazing.
Fortunately, the structure of the house itself was really good.
Yeah.
It was really well built. The walls were in good shape. I mean, we had a little bit of water damage in a couple of places, but
Wow.
not much.
That's,
So a lot of the rooms just needed to be cleaned up and then painted. And that was really fortunate for us.
But there were other things that we didn't plan on, and things that I've learned about that I never knew anything about. The house has a whole indoor sprinkler system for fire prevention. So there are...
That worked. When we walked in the door, it was up and
After
running.
15, I mean, on being
17 years empty, it still worked fine.
Years, right.
And what we found out was that sprinkler heads are good for 50 years. And well, ours were 50 years old.
boy.
So $8,000 later, we replaced all the sprinkler heads in the house. So there were things that I now know how they work, and you know, just
More than you maybe
learning
wanted to know,
curve.
but you're
Right.
glad you know now.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You've had incredible participation from the business community too. One that I think we can talk about is your oil has been provided. Can you talk a little bit about that as an example of the outreach?
So Bob Sayre over at Star Petroleum received a pamphlet from one of his workmen who was over at Maureen's house, Maureen Cappuccino, who's the house administrator, sent him back to the office with a brochure. And the next day, Bob Sayre at Star Petroleum called me and said, can I come over and look at the equipment that you have for your oil system? And I said, fine. And he came over with his nephew and somebody else, and they went downstairs and looked at the furnaces, because we have 3 of them. And he came back upstairs and sat down with me in the entryway, and he said, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to provide all the oil for the house for you for free.
Wow.
8,500 square feet,
Right.
8,550, I believe. Right? That's incredible.
It's you know, has to be, he said, I know what I'm getting into. You know, he's been in the business for many years. So he said, I understand the scope of the donation that I'm making to the house.
You know, and it can't be overestimated the impact that this has on destigmatizing this illness.
That I was exactly thinking.
Please.
That's exactly. I was just saying. It seems like the fact that so many people have rallied, that there's a different view about this disease now. The old stigma that used to be associated.
It's getting there.
You still feel that it's.
Yeah, there's still a little bit out there, but
yeah.
nowhere near as much. When the 2069 campaign started, the stigma was much worse than it is right now.
I agree. And I look at Barbara and David as perfect examples of why. Because when they open themselves up, they literally open up their lives and they say, here we are, we're going to tell you our story. And we're going to tell you the story of our son, and we're not ashamed. And we're
That's
going
it.
to tell that, and we're actually going to build a place where people can talk about their own stories. This is what happened, and it's been an
happens all the
incredible,
time.
right? An incredible sort of.
We've had people come in the
cultivated.
driveway and just tell the story and cry, standing in the driveway out here behind the house. And it's cathartic for them, and it's an important part of what's going on here is that people get, not only are we going to work with kids, but the families have a lot to do with what's going on here, and that's just as important.
It's a safe place here. It's a safe place for all kinds of conversations because we've all been there.
Right.
And whether you've lost a loved one or you have somebody, somebody in long-term recovery,
Or somebody
you
who's
have somebody
using still and
active.
doesn't,
right. There's
doesn't get it
it's a
yet.
judgment-free zone here. And that's what makes it such a unique place that people feel so comfortable to be here.
And it's interesting to think about, from our conversation going on the tour, to think about the mission of a sober house. It isn't just having people come and live here. There's so much that goes on to what could you talk us through about a resident comes to a sober, what's that experience like? What are the sort of the mission that by the time they leave, what's the difference from when they start to when they leave?
We can talk to you about Gilly's because there are various levels of sober homes.
To your
right, so we can talk to you about what our issue is and what we believe that, if we can get the kids to stay for a year, which is the goal, they can
that's
stay
the goal.
longer, but the goal is to get them to stay for a year, that we want to prepare them more than just they've been a year sober, that they've got some skills, they've got some, we've done programming, we've done education, we've done lots of things to make them self-sufficient when they leave here, to give them some coping mechanisms so that when a trigger hits, and the temptation is there to relapse. That they've got some, they've got a band of brothers that they've learned in here, and that AA is there, and the Safe Coalition is to reach out to, and there's various other resources that they've got. They've got skills so that we can hopefully get them something more than just flipping burgers at McDonald's for, they can start on a career which takes some stress out of their life. So it's more than just giving them that year in time. It's prepping them to be successful once they've left here. That's the goal.
That is, and you can see based on the experiences, we talked about that also, is the idea of the confidence that they gain from all of these experiences that you're providing them. So when they go out into the world, they hold their head up high. Because a lot of them, and you talked about it too, sometimes it's the guilt and shame that comes along with this disease.
It's self-image
right?
stuff.
Yeah.
It's self-image stuff,
Right.
and we want to give them back their self-image. This is a place where you're valued.
That's it.
And you're a worthy person, and you're worthwhile, and we know that, and you need to know that.
And the property itself. I know right from the outset, your goal was to make this a home was all caps home, and you've done that. And I think that the quality and the care that all of these dedicated rooms show, this is a home. This is sitting in your living room. And I was saying to Ann before the program that, before I came into this business, if you will, I didn't know anything about sober homes, and to me they were probably institutions,
Right, that's what we
probably
were
cold
saying,
places that you'd never want to set foot in.
And some are.
And some are, thank you, and some are worse.
And some are worse.
However, to come into Gilly's house is literally like walking in your home, and I believe that what you're setting young men up for is you're saying, look, our standard is here. We expect cleanliness. A lot of care went into keeping this place. So rising tides raise all ships, and hopefully that's what people get out of that.
Yeah,
Is that right?
That is the hope.
And you have this
Exactly.
beautiful setting with gardens.
We're on a couple acres of land, and we have vegetable gardens this year already that people put in for the house. And
So the residents then become part of maintaining all of this, right? That's
Absolutely.
part of the responsibility of living here. So,
Absolutely.
Right?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's great.
What's the long-term vision? You've got, I know you've got 22 beds planned. You've got all of this vocational assistance, nutritional counseling, giving people a holistic look, a year commitment. Are there other long-term plans that people can help you achieve by donating to Gilly's House, a 501c3 nonprofit?
One of the things that we're working on right now is some of the kids will not. There is programming fees to live here because there is no
That's right.
state money, there's no insurance company money, there's none of that. So the house has to support itself. Well, some of the kids that'll be here will have either come from incarceration or places where families have cut ties with them, and they won't have anything more than just the clothes on their back. So we're looking to develop a scholarship fund to give them some time to get started, to find a job, to be able to start, to be self-sufficient. Self-sufficient's the whole thing. So we're working on doing fundraising for that as well as the house itself.
David, would you say that'd be the biggest barrier, assuming somebody can make the criteria of 90
Right,
days sober
right.
and other criteria?
Yes,
to
it
get
would
in?
definitely be a
Would that be the
barrier.
biggest barrier? Would be the move-in fees in those first few months?
We don't want it to be.
Right.
Right.
But in general,
But
in the
in
environment.
general, that is an issue. It's, it is, even though it's a 501c3, it does have to operate like a business, and we have to treat it like a business, regardless of the mission. So we have to figure out how to handle that and do that. So scholarship money is, and we have some that the Safe Coalition was generous enough to donate to us, but we need to have an ongoing fund there, because down the road, guys are going to come and guys are going to go.
Is there any more grant money available out there?
There's no
There's no
grant
This is
grant money.
ridiculous.
I know,
grant
there's
money.
no.
Ridiculous. This is an epidemic.
Coupled with that, there's very little conversation about long-term recovery, and that's what this is long-term recovery. And quite honestly, the government and insurance companies are all looking for, a
Quick
quick
fix.
correction.
Quick fix, which we know doesn't
Right,
work.
doesn't
right.
work.
So-
As evidenced by the fact that the
Methadone and
insurance,
Suboxone, we're not going to deal with here.
insurance parity says
Yeah.
we'll give you 14 days.
Right.
Yeah.
14 days in a rehab, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That's like saying
28
to a
days
cancer
national.
victim, we'll give you 14 days to
Right.
get better, right? Or
Right.
diabetes, we'll give you
Yeah.
14 days. Are you kidding
Right.
me?
And we've had these conversations around the table at the Safe Coalition with legislators saying, this is really where we need to move the conversation, is to what you're talking about, Ann, is to more money into longer-term
That's
treatment.
it.
In the meantime, you have grassroots organizations like Gilly's House, like the Safe Coalition, trying their best with volunteer efforts to put some sort of a fix on this, and this is a huge step forward. So I want to encourage people to donate to Gilly's
Yes.
House. You can go to Gilly's House, the website will appear in this program, your phone number will appear here. Maureen Cappuccino's in the office if Barbara or David aren't available. And I really want to encourage people to donate. You could sponsor someone's first step into
Right.
long-term
You
recovery.
could sponsor a month or two
That's
of
great.
someone staying. So, and that would be wonderful, because people who do come here, I mean, honestly, many guys who will come here, their parents are totally tapped out from things that insurance didn't pay for in the past, and rehabs and programs that
Yeah.
they've spent tens of thousands of dollars
And in
on.
some cases, hundreds of thousands
Of
of
course,
dollars.
of course.
We hear the stories a lot.
Yeah.
And,
We all have.
Yeah, yeah. So again, people can go to the website, they can go and like the Facebook page. You guys always have events, fundraising events, opportunities to get involved, and they can come by for a tour.
Yeah.
Right.
Anytime. We love
tours.
giving tours.
We love it.
This is an open house.
It is, it is. So
There's nothing to hide here.
Right.
I mean, it is an open place. It's, and we like people coming through, and we like them to see what it is, and then hopefully they'll want to get involved.
So I want to give you a segue to,
Oh, yes.
I was, early on in the process here, I was getting lots of donations, or people offering donations of furniture. Everything in the place has been donated, services and items and products and sweat equity. And I swear everybody got rid of all the furniture in all their houses, because I got pictures of all of it. And I was overwhelmed, and there was so many things to do to make the house happen that I said to David one day, I said, I just cannot spend all my time on furniture. And there are too many other things. I really need somebody who will deal with the furniture. Now, this kind of story has happened numerous times here. But a couple nights later at home, I got a phone call from a woman who said, I don't know if you remember me or not, but you met me at a Learn to Cope meeting. She said, my name is Maureen Cappuccino. She said, I'm just calling to offer you any help if you need it with furniture. And
Your prayers were answered.
and it was amazing because, you know, Maureen and I are quite the team here, and we couldn't keep going on without Maureen. She's
Right.
just amazing. So from then
Right.
on, now Maureen is the house administrator.
Sure,
And
sure. You have great help here, and you couldn't have asked for anybody better than Maureen. We'll have her on in a
unbelievable.
minute.
Great. Thank you.
And here is the aforementioned Maureen Cappuccino. Welcome, Maureen.
Thank you for having
And
me.
Al Baza, welcome to you.
Thank you, Jim.
I apologize, I almost said Boza, but
That's okay.
I corrected myself quickly. Both of you came into Gilly's as volunteers and have very, very unique stories to share. And we were talking a little bit about how this project with the Gilmeisters, about how this project has inspired so much communal involvement and so much sharing of stories. And nowhere else could this be more evident than right here. So, Maureen, can you talk to us a little bit about your entry into Gilly's and what
Sure.
brought you here?
Sure. So, probably a little over a year ago, I was at a Learn to Cope meeting in Franklin. Every Monday night in Franklin at the Universalist Church, there's a meeting at 7 o'clock for parents and families and loved ones who struggle with someone they love with addiction. So it's a recovery program for the families. So I was sitting at a meeting one night, and this woman spoke. She came into the meeting to talk about the son that she had lost and her project that she was going to be involved in. And it was Barbara Gilmeister talking about Gilly's house. And I had known about Stephen Gilmeister. My son knew of Stephen. So the name rang a bell. So I listened to Barbara's story, what her mission was. And I went home from that meeting, and a couple months later, I was thinking about it a lot. How brave they were, how courageous, how kind and compassionate. And I said, no, I got to help them because we're all in this. We all have to do some little part. It doesn't matter how big or small. So I decided I'm going to just give her a call. So I had her number from the Learn to Cope list, and I gave Barbara a call, and I just said, hey, you know, you might not remember me. I met you at a meeting. You've probably met hundreds of people, but I'd like to help you get donations and help you with all this furniture that you're getting and just donations in general. And there was silence on the other end of the phone, like almost like she was going to cry because it was just what she was looking for, because she was getting very overwhelmed, because it's very overwhelming with all the support she's getting. It's good overwhelming.
Right.
So I said, let's do it. I'll take over that part of it, and I will field all those phone calls and give you a little bit of relief so you can concentrate on getting this house up and running. So that's how we met. So it was a perfect meeting at a perfect place. So Learn to Cope is a great meeting for people out there if you're looking for support for your loved ones, but it's also a place to connect with people, and it's like a family. Mm-hmm. So that's our story there.
But it's really amazing that people come along just at the right time.
Of course.
And I know, I don't know you really well, but the idea of talking about yourself isn't something that you're comfortable, because there's an element of not wanting to be like a show off or anything. But it's so important that your story gets told and that people see the impact that one generous, kind offer can make in the course of the whole thing. And you're one of those people who stepped up to the plate. I know you're modest about it, and it is difficult when the attention gets focused on you, because you said, I don't want this to be about me, but it's important, and that's why we're so grateful that you're sharing that story with us, because it inspires other people as well.
It is and you have
Yeah.
to talk about it if you don't talk about it, because us parents that have gone through this with our loved ones, and I've gone through with other family members, brothers, nephews, uncles, you can't not talk about it. You have
Right.
to talk about it so you heal and other people understand.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
One of the great benefits of talking about it is that you meet people like Al. And Al, you're a perfect example of someone who is, I'm going to say, on the outside, in that you didn't, at least to your knowledge, have anybody directly impacted by substance use disorder.
No.
Yeah.
So I had it was a completely different world
Yeah.
to me.
How did you get involved with Gilly's, Al?
Maureen had called me, I believe this was in October, in that time period, and she had talked to me about Barbara needing some furniture, knowing that I had some warehouses that I was in the process of closing. So we got into a discussion, and she set up a meeting with Barbara. They came over to my warehouses, and we looked around. We had a lot of talking. That same month, I was driving through Wrentham and spoke to my wife, and I said, I wonder what those 2069 signs mean.
Right.
I had no clue. So we Googled it and looked at it, and I was amazed at what I was looking at, because I was on the outside had no idea something like this was happening. I had known Maureen for many, many years, and she started talking to me a little bit, and I had no clue what she had been going through.
Right. And so at that point, you guys, you hadn't shared your story with Al,
No.
but yet had been friends for many, many years. You see this sign by the 2069 Project and are inspired to Google it and find out more about it. Now you have an open window to share. It's amazing how this comes around.
Yeah, and then same time I was graduating I was becoming a holistic health coach.
Yeah.
So this all was falling into place, and I was always involved. I was with the Norfolk Lions, so we did a lot of charity work and a lot of helping there. Came through this house here with Barbara and looked at it, and I was thinking to myself, because I have a lot of real estate experience and commercial experience, and I said, oh my God. You know,
What did they get
knew
into,
what
right?
they were walking into. And one of the things that David didn't mention when he was talking about all the things that they were going through and all the volunteers that came through is they completed most of this in 10 weeks.
Right.
So to go through
It's
that
amazing.
amount with all these volunteers
Right.
and just the people that I've met while I've been here, friends that I had that I knew didn't know that they had lost a son through this. So the more I got involved in it, the more I jumped in and helped. I joined the board, became a board member, helped a lot with the organizing some of the groups coming in, doing it, and started spreading the word.
Yeah.
So I would talk to some. I was involved in one event that really had an effect on me. It was called Dodging for Amy.
Dodging addiction for Amy.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's
in Dedham.
this poster, here's the flyer with a 3 or 4 year old kissing a gravestone because his mother had passed away to addiction, through an overdose. And I met the sister who was running this. Great people, great family. So I've met a lot of people that I would never have met without this. And I now do some coaching here.
You know,
as well.
this story, Ann, is so powerful because to me this is emblematic of what one would hope would come out of all of these efforts. Take the 2069 Project, which is one that was founded by the people at Trinity Episcopal Church, small country parish right here in Wrentham, Massachusetts. Ron Tibbetts is their deacon. It was really, he inspired the project. His daughter, Lisa Dacko, has been instrumental in carrying that torch. So here you have that effort, which is really in coordination. We've all been working kind of together.
Oh,
Safe
definitely.
Coalition, Gilly's house, but we've all been working together. And here, all of it came together with Al's experience, and he, to the point where someone who considered himself to be kind of on the outside of this is now on the board of the first sober home in the area.
Can I just ask, I don't know if it's okay to ask this question, but businessman you are, and then you decide that later on that you're going to go be a holistic healer. You
Yeah.
know? That's, to me, an incredible story. I'm just more curious about, that's quite an undertaking.
It was. It's kind of funny. When I was actually 63,
Yeah.
before I had a chance to tell my wife that I enrolled in a school, she saw the email where I was accepted. And she called me up and she says, "Are you insane?"
So that's the ask for forgiveness as opposed to permission.
She said, "You're 63 years old. What are you doing?" But I had met some very interesting doctors that were doing holistic practices, and I got involved in health and wellness more and more. So the people that I was meeting kind of directed me. And like you say, things happen for a reason.
Right.
So it just completely changed from where I was 10 years ago to where I am now. It's just a complete...
Well, it's made you 63 years young.
Well, I'm only 63.
That's
how I
right.
answer it.
That's right.
I'm
That's
only
exactly
63.
a youngster, relatively. Yeah.
Maureen, you go ahead and you accept a position here. So now you're full-time employed here by Gilly's house. What do you do? I know you do everything, but what's your official role?
So Barbara had mentioned we were friends now, and we're going along this path, and we're doing all this work, all this charity work, and she keeps mentioning how she needs somebody. She needs someone to take all this load off her. Emails, phone calls, getting back to people, reaching out, PR, that stuff. And I'm listening, and this is basically what I love to do. I'm on another board of directors for another nonprofit, and I'm in charge of donations. So that's easy for me to talk to people, ask for things, and because I believe in what I'm doing. believe in the causes I'm working for. So she mentioned one time, I really need somebody. And I said, so I thought about it and I went to her and I asked her, what about me? You know, I don't want to ruin a friendship. I want to do this right, but what do you think? And she just, once again, there was silence. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, you would do that? And I said, yes, I would do that. So that's how it all started. So what I do here is, so there was no job description. I just started helping Barbara. There was no job description. We're all pioneers, right?
That's a good job description, helping Barbara.
Helping Barbara.
I like it.
And it's easy, I can do that. And so I felt confident in that. And so, and I call us pioneers here. This is, you know, new. Everyone here is new to this, everybody working here. So basically just started getting my computer, getting my database going, getting contacts, fielding the emails, reaching out for money, contacting police stations, going to therapist office, and just kind of PR in it. That's, you know, letting everyone know I carry everything in my car, all the brochures and pamphlets. So when I'm anywhere, I'm at Costco or I'm at the supermarket or I'm at Bed Bath & Beyond and I'm making a return for our Gilly's house registry that we have there, I'll say, do you know about, I'll ask them, have you ever heard about Gilly's house in the conversation, because they'll look up our registry, and I'll say, do you know? So, and I have gotten conversations going at desks at stores and in parking lots, and as soon as they hear it, they go, wait a minute, I think I've heard of that.
And
So-
Star Petroleum.
And Star Petroleum. I mean,
Okay,
just by
that's
having
huge.
Bob, who I had for 20 years come to my house, I only have Bob come and do my service work every May. I asked him to bring that pamphlet and brochure back to his owner, and that's how it all started. If you don't ask, they can just say no.
That's right.
People can just say, but on the majority, they say yes.
Right, and that's a great example. I actually called the owner of Star Petroleum to thank him. I've been a customer of theirs for years.
Me too, yeah.
And it's not
But
why he
that was
did
good
it.
you called and thanked
It
him. Yeah.
wasn't why he did
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I know him well enough.
Yeah.
But it's a great example of the power of this, and it was a way for him to give back and
Unbelievable.
open his company up to a new form of community healing, if you will. Can't thank you guys enough.
This was great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And I hope people will come down to see Gilly's house, call us, take a tour. If you know anybody that would qualify to stay here, Chris can give you more of that information. He's our house director that you'll be
Right.
speaking to next. But it's a beautiful place, but it's not a house, it's a home. Once you see these bedrooms, the love that has gone
Yes.
into these bedrooms, I mean, 9 out of 10 of them are done or on their way to be finished, and they're all dedicated to young men that have lost their lives to substance abuse disorder, and the parents, some grandparents, and my Bible study group from Emmanuel Baptist Church, they even adopted a room. So these rooms are just, when you walk in, the love that you
can
feel.
feel it,
You feel the
absolutely.
love.
Oh.
It's not institutionalized. It's not a metal bed with no comforter on
It's
it.
a home.
It's a home. It's warm and cozy, and a place that people need to see.
So glad you said that. I want to emphasize this is a MASH certified home, which is Massachusetts Association of Sober Homes. You go on their website, mash.org, I believe it is, and you'll see a listing of homes. But beyond that, I can tell you that having been in a lot of sober homes and toured a lot of them, this is beyond what you see in the sober home world. And there are a lot of good ones out there. This is one of the greatest.
This is different. It's
and I
unique.
can say that.
It's unique. It's
Yeah.
very unique.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought
One of
that
the
up.
things I loved is we started last month we have what, 6 dedicated rooms now?
Well, we have 9 out of 10.
9 of them are dedicated.
Yeah, 9.
Wow.
9. You're
And we
one
had
of
a
them.
get together with the people that dedicated those
Right.
rooms. And you talk about a feeling of family,
That's it, yeah.
and it's something that we're continuing.
Yeah,
we will
we're
continue. But it's not something that they just come in and they do it. Now they're actually coming in and getting involved.
Yeah,
And
we're
then
going to form a
It's
community.
helping them tremendously.
But it certainly is, because that feeling of once it's all done and say now what,
What do
but
I
say
do next?
no,
Yeah.
but no, you know. So it's that connection with the families. It's great. It's
Yeah.
great.
So,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
And so our next guest, Chris Sachs. Chris is the manager here at Gilly's House, program manager.
Yes,
That's your title.
house director.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
having
for
me.
coming
Thank
on.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, part of what we've been talking about has been the history and the development of Gilly's House, and you are bringing the ongoing program management to Gilly's. Can you talk a little bit about
Trying.
where you're from and what you're looking to do at Gilly's?
Well, I've been in the field for going on 11 years now, and when they brought me on board, I had to come up with documentation, and from the moment they come into the room, into the building, to when they exit. So I had to come up with documents for everything, incident reports, group meetings.
Oh, okay, so sort of create all the
medications. I had to
forms.
create
and-
everything, and then I've also been hiring. So besides myself and Maureen, there's 9 other employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been doing the interviewing on them too, and a lot of them are in recovery too, and they bring a lot of experience to the house.
Now you're set for 22 male residents.
Yes.
They'll hopefully be spending a year period with you. What type of programming can they expect when they come to Gilly's?
Well, what really want to push on them is support. Support. When they first come into Gilly's house, we like them to tell us what they need to get better and to keep going in recovery as they've been doing. So we're there here to support them, whether it's mental health, whether it's life skills, whether it's just our goal is to get them back into the community and they'll be self-sufficient. And so we'll help them any way we can. We're strictly for support. So the groups that we've set up are all aimed at doing just that. Wellness, spirituality. Of course, we're AA is big, and and since they've been in the program, they've been introduced to a lot of AA and NA. So we're going to continue that. Have them get involved with a sponsor, mentor, and whatever they need, we're here to get it for them.
What would so what's a typical week look like in terms of requirements for a young man living
Well,
at
it's a
Gilly's?
working house. They have weekly fees. So we encourage them to get work. And we encourage them to have a car so they can get to work and so forth. The ones that come in and they need work, the community has actually reached out to us too, that they'll actually hire some of these young men and take them on. So that will help. If they're working, they're going to have different hours, I'm sure. Some are going to be day shifts, some are going to be afternoon shifts or evening shifts. So we'll work around that. And the ones that don't work, we're going to have them do things for the community, volunteering, community support, services, working in the yard. We're going to keep them busy, and they're going to earn their keep here in other ways.
Which is really important
And-
for self-esteem, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it gets them back out and
That's
meeting strangers and communicating with them and behaving, and they're just different people than what they've been used to hanging around with. And it's 32 hours that we require out of them to do that. So
So of either work or volunteer.
exactly.
Community service.
Even going to meetings and so forth, that all is included in the time.
okay.
So they have a criteria they have to meet while they're here.
So is there a requirement that they go to meetings?
Yes.
Good. And
Yes.
how many meetings would a typical resident go to a week?
Well, we require 32 hours, and that could be AA meetings. I'd like for them to go every night if possible, and twice on Sundays. But if they have other things to do too, if they work too, we don't want to pressure them and overload them too.
Sure.
One thing that trips up a lot of young men in recovery is money and going right back to work right away. It's
Oh,
it's
interesting.
stressful.
Yeah.
So we'd rather have it a get-well job, washing dishes, doing something easy just to break them into it. And then
So the recovery stays first and doesn't
exactly,
fall to the
because
back
without the
seat.
recovery, they don't have the job.
Right. Interesting.
Do they hold the counseling sessions here, like the AA, or do they go out to where they're, or do they come here to the?
We post every day. We post local meetings for
Okay.
them, AA and NA.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging them to go there. But as we get fuller, as we become a full house,
That's right.
we'll bring them right in here. I have a lot of commitments that are on standby that will be happy to come in here and work with them.
Sure. And those commitments are people from the outside that come
Right.
as part of their recovery, come in to
Share.
to speak and share.
Experience,
their
strength, and
views.
hope. They call
That's it,
And,
yeah.
Great. It surely is a hopeful place, and
It sure
part of
is.
what you're going to be doing is recreational as well, right? I mean, it's not all just gutting it out.
We
and-
hope to. We hope to have recreation. We hope to get them involved in sports, Paul Sox games, things like that. Get them to have fun and be clean and sober at the same time.
Right.
I think like the Y would be a good resource too.
The Y, absolutely.
Yeah, because they do. They
Yep,
have
the
the
gym.
scholarships, and they do so much for to support the community. I was just thinking they'd be a
Absolutely.
great place
That
to
would be.
partner with, right?
And one of our employees actually works with the Y, so that'd be
Sure.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. It's nice meeting you.
Look
Jim.
forward to
Thank
working
you.
with you.
Nice
This is
meeting
great.
Thank
Nice
you so
meeting
much.
you.
Thanks for your time.
Another great thing about Gilly's house is that all the bedrooms here will eventually be adopted by families who have lost a loved one to substance use disorder, and the room will be dedicated to their loved one. And we have just one of those families here with us today. This is Joanne and Lenny Hensis. In this room, we're sitting in Lenny, your son Lenny III's room. Tragically, you lost Lenny to an overdose in July 2 years ago. Is that right?
Correct.
So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how Gilly's house, and in particular the ability to dedicate this room to your son's memory, what that's meant to you both?
It's funny how it evolved. I don't know if Lenny was, not that he wasn't on board, but he kind of felt funny about it. I had heard about it. We met Barbara through all kinds of support groups, and it was a wonderful meeting. It's just been therapeutic for both of us. And it's just introduced us to so many wonderful people who understand, who know when you're saying you're having a bad day, you're good, they know exactly what you're going through. Lenny's son battled for a long time, and it gave us a chance to work with the community, and this is going to make a huge difference. When we came to the ribbon cutting, as soon as Lenny and our friend Keith, who also helped us with this room, walked upstairs, and then they didn't come down, I kind of knew. They were on board. They were already planning and plotting what they were going to do with the room, which room they wanted, and it just snowballed into a fabulous relationship, and it's totally therapeutic, and it's gotten us totally embedded into the whole recovery community, which we were anyway, but it's even more so. We've made so many wonderful friends and people who understand. We can help others.
Yeah, and it made the room dedication to him seem more appropriate because he was on board with helping others. We found out at his funeral that a lot of people would come up and say, he helped me to be where I am. And maybe thought way was that this room would also help someone else along the way, and many more to follow on the same trail as his thoughts were when he was helping others, even though it didn't quite help him, but maybe prevent somebody else from going through the same tragedy.
And incredibly, the very first resident here at Gilly's house resides here in Lenny's room.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's amazing how that comes around. And you talk about Lenny helping other people. I've gotten to know you since Lenny's passing. Really, I've gotten to know you really well. And I know that you're carrying that legacy of helping forward. You're very involved with the community, the recovery community. That's parents like myself that are going through this, parents that have lost children or loved ones to substance use disorder. And I know that your presence up here is a real important part of Gilly's house. When people come up and they see Joanne and Lenny, whether you're moving something around in your son's room or you're helping in another fashion, this house has really inspired healing in the recovery community, hasn't it?
Oh,
Yes.
completely. I personally think that this is going to be a model for what people do in the recovery community in the future, because this is what it's about: mind, body, and spirit. It's not just, and it being nonprofit is huge. We've seen what Lenny has gone through in his 24 years of battling addiction. He had 6 years strung together, few slips of sobriety. He helped, as Lenny said, he helped so many in the community. And that, I think, learning that at his funeral just kind of gave us the push that we had to do something, to work with something. And we had been involved with the Learn to Cope community, learning when he was still actively addictive, and we just stayed with it. That was Lenny's request. He wanted to stay with it to help other people, and that was his therapy. And we've just met so many great people and helped so many people along the way. But this whole house that Barbara and David have done is just, it's grown legs.
Now, Lenny has a son, Tori, your grandson.
Yes.
Has he been in Lenny's room? Has he seen the room, his dad's room?
Yes.
Yes, he did come up.
He has,
Yeah.
okay.
We want him to do community service here.
Isn't that something?
He's in the ROTC program, junior ROTC in his school.
Yeah.
And we want him to work in the gardens that they're gonna be doing when his next vacation, so.
It'd be a powerful reminder to his son for the rest of his life about the power that his dad had in helping others and what it is to pay things forward, as his dad did.
Right.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
I think one of the most important things too, and we're not, this happened with us as well when Lenny was actively he was actively using. It's hard to love them then,
Right.
because there's a lot of bad things going on, but they're still your kids and they still are valued. And this shows Tori that his dad was valued and he did good things for good people, and he mattered. His life really mattered. And so that's great for Tori to know that his legacy isn't one of negativity, it's one of very positive in the community. And
Right.
so.
You know, as I said before, I've known you for a long time now, and I really value your friendship and the relationship that we built over the years through Learn to Cope, and it now continues on through Gilly's house. What is the one message that you'd want parents to know, or people in general to know, that are struggling with a loved one with substance use disorder, that may be afraid of the worst case scenario happening as you've faced? What is the one message that you'd want to share?
Mine would be that there is always hope, as with anything. But if indeed something tragically does happen, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or gold at the end of the rainbow, in the sense that we never met Tori until his dad's funeral.
Your grandson, yeah.
So I'd like to have them both here, but we never would have met him. And that has changed our lives immensely, and I think we're changing his immensely as well. And that's the positive for the negative, if there is such a thing out there, the good coming out of the bad.
I would just say to the parents, don't isolate, don't hide, you've got me going now with the tears. Don't hide, don't be ashamed. It's hard because people will judge you. You can't change what other people do, you can only change what you do, and you can only change your own situation. And just get out there and get the support. And as Lenny said, there's always hope. And with us, it's the hope that this horrible, horrible epidemic, which it is, and the stigmas get wiped out. And we can only do that one person at a time. We can get outraged at what's happening to a whole entire generation. And I think quietly, without being angry about it, one step at a time. And that's what Barbara and David have done here at Gilly's house. They've just worked so hard, and it, as I said, it's grown legs. It's just taken over the whole community. I think it's fabulous.
Sure has. On the behalf of a lot of people, I want to thank you both for your dedication, for your openness and your willingness to share, because it's in sharing like this, I believe, that we find healing. We can't do this alone. No. And isolation is the enemy.
Absolutely.
And happily, with people like you, isolation doesn't exist because of your steadfastness to things like this project and to reaching out to other people. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
One more thing?
Oh, yeah, please.
Another thing to tell the people would be to reach out, like you just pointed out, to organizations such as the Safe Coalition or the Learn to Cope, to deal with and get in touch with people that are in the same boat as you, because a lot of people out there who don't have the same situation don't understand, and they'll treat you differently, whereas people who are in the same situation will at least give you the comfort and understand, as opposed to criticizing your ability to raise your loved one. They will sympathize with you because they know what's going on, and eventually everybody else will be that way, but you have to get your strength from other people that are doing the same thing.
Well put.
Yeah.
And we value your friendship as well, Jim.
Yes.
It's been a blessing.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody out there for watching. If you or somebody you know is suffering from substance use disorder, you can reach out to the Safe Coalition by calling our telephone number at 508-488-8105. You can also reach us on the internet at safecoalitionma.org or on Facebook or Twitter. So for Dr. Ann Bergen, my name's Jim Derrick, saying thanks for watching.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. Thanks for watching.